Thank you very much, first for inviting me. I was supposed to be here in May, and they asked me to come earlier, so I really appreciate that. To come here, in fact, it's probably the best time to come here, especially I have a lot of interest that's panning out in what's happening pertaining to land claims. But before I go down that path, I think it's essential I talk a little bit about who is the MMF, who is the Manitoba Federation, because I think there's not enough yet, and I always believe that Manitoba knows who we are, but the more I talk to the business community and the affluent citizens of our province, that makes such a big difference. When you go deep into discussions, they don't really know much more about what they read in the newspaper. I know the Free Press is here and other media, but it truly is essential that, you know, the word Aboriginal has become one of our anchors now we're trying to fight against and educate against, because the word Aboriginal really is not a people, it's not a culture, and people need to understand that. It's a definition, and it defines 3 different peoples and 3 different nations in Canada. First Nation, the Métis, and the Inuit, that's all it does. And the word Aboriginal is too easily used in the government and also in the private sector, because you need to know who you're dealing with. You know, if you're doing business, you want to know who you're dealing with, and why should you trust that business or that relationship. Every business, anybody doing in that field would definitely want to know. I would definitely want to know who I'm doing business with and their history about who they are. That's essential. So I thought I'd start off with that, because the Federation really, you know, in 1967 originated from many great leaders of the past, and from that day on, we ensured that the Métis voice was going to be specific. Because at that time, let's understand, the word Aboriginal is just a new phenomenon also. It was Native, it was one word at one time. What was the other words? Indian was the first word, then the word came Native, and then Aboriginal. So Aboriginal doesn't come until the 80s and puts itself into our country. So it's been a challenge for us to try to balance that basic emphasis. So MMF, the Métis organization, needed to have a voice singular to the Métis issues, and that's when MMF actually created itself in 1967. And we've been growing in leaps and bounds, and since that time, we, of course, went up and down like the stock exchange in New York or the Toronto Stock Exchange. We've gone up and down, and but we've been really consistent, and we've been going like this in the last 15 years. So I'm very, very proud of that. But the Federation is made up probably one of the most democratic institutions in Canada. In fact, as the president, I have to campaign province-wide, right from here to Churchill, and I'm not elected in a riding. It's like our premier is elected in a riding, and then he's chosen by a delegate system, and so is the prime minister. And so, but from the Métis side, I have to be elected directly from the citizens at large, and that's how I'm elected as a president. And there I have 7 regional offices in the province of Manitoba, and I have vice presidents and board of directors, and then from there I make my cabinet. So I have 23 that sit on our board. 22 in total are elected in the province-wide election, but we also have a seat for the Métis women. Even though after my cabinet is more than men, it's women, we still have a seat specifically set aside for the Métis women issues, and that individual is elected. The Métis women leadership is elected in a different system. So we have a 23-member cabinet, and we represent our citizens right across this province. And that's been an issue for us, and I'll talk a little bit about it shortly, but it's been an ongoing challenge of getting that recognition intact. And understanding that who we are and that you have to deal with us when industry and others are coming into our natural resource sector fields in our communities. But the Métis Federation has been paramount, and we have adamantly held that position about protecting the democracy of our system. And it's something we won't never stray from, and I think it's important to recognize that. So once you see that, and people always misunderstand when the word, again, the word Aboriginal comes in the media somewhere. People say, oh, that's our tax dollars. Well, Métis pay taxes. By hundreds of millions of dollars, we pay taxes annually. And we still believe in paying taxes. I always remind governments, I said, you're managing my people's money that you take from us, and your job is to ensure we get the best benefit of those dollars back to our citizens. But if you start looking at how much you're actually dispensing out, you're missing my people, which you're finding us when it comes to paying taxes. So just for all the taxpayers in this room, including myself, let me tell you what your provincial government gives me for my core funds, $240,000 or something like that. And federally, 400 and something thousand. That's all I get, $600,000 in change to run an entire government province-wide. All my money, most of my money is made through business transactions. where I can prove to the government that I can actually deliver a service that they're delivering much cheaper and more, probably, and definitely more effective than they are. So that's how our system is designed. So if people think we're using your tax dollars, I guarantee we're not. We're using my own, but we're not definitely getting enough back to us. So we've been pushing that agenda very strong to get ourselves in the rightful place. But one of the things, I spoke in Australia last year, and I've been asked to go to South Africa and a few other places to speak, and in fact some of these other troubling countries. And sometimes I get quite radical when I speak, so I've got to be careful. I won't be coming home maybe. But some of the issues that I do reference very clear is we can't wait for government, and I think the business community would agree with me. We can't wait for government to advance ourselves. We need to move ahead, and that's the messaging I'm giving my people. Like, we created our own economic arm. We have a bunch of social programs. As I said, I'm much cheaper than government, and I've proven it through different studies when I deliver a service. But when I started building the Federation, I left in Justice in 1996 from the province of Manitoba. We had 3 staff, and I couldn't pay them, including myself. And we had a $750,000 deficit, and we were broke. We had no money. And I left my career. I could have been retired next year. Lloyd, I could have been retired and have a nice paycheck. But anyways, we started building from there. Today we got 750 staff, and our budget's about 90 million and growing. And so we're advancing rapidly in the sense of showing you that growth can happen. And we're just like any other Manitoban, Canadian. We're buying houses, you know, we're buying cars, we're providing our spin into the economy, we're buying products from probably many of your businesses, so we're definitely a part of the growing development of our province. So we're definitely focusing as we move forward. But my strategy was to build that social context in order to make sure as I move towards more self-government, I have to have that institution strongly intact. And then I could focus into ECDEV. And economic development is where I've been putting my energy in the last year and a half. So, and we're going, and I'll speak on quickly on that, where we're going with that. But I look at, for example, our Métis Economic Development Arm. You know, that started off as a dream, and it's now reality. And we're, I think, in the sense of moving quite rapidly. Our real estate value, I think, is about 40 million already on buying assets. Good example. And there's such easy ways, not easy ways, but good ways that you can actually take over business. There's a massive opportunity that exists in Manitoba, and in particular in the prairies, where businesses in a certain range are sitting there where the parents have built this industry or this business, and their children don't want it, and they don't know what to do with it. So we're venturing and looking at these opportunities, and Naylor was a good example. When I flew out to Miami, Florida, and met the owner and shook hands, they came out owning a building on Sutherland, and just to tell you, we filled it up completely already. It's all filled up, and I think it's about 80,000 square feet. So, you know, there's many transactions of business that are occurring out there that we're slowly, but I don't advertise it too much. Because by advertising it, government are trying to figure out how to come at me some angles, so I just don't tell government too much what I'm doing. So they're definitely trying to see my books in every angle, I'll tell you that. But what we are building, and I said, for example, we did a study on, and this is, I always trying to find a positive in anything I'm doing, and when we did a study on Métis healthcare, and I've been promoting very hard in our province that the Métis are in the worst healthcare, and I know by visiting my communities, we're the worst healthcare state than anybody else. And the reason why, it's not because we don't, people say, well, don't you have the same benefits as we do, that you can go to any hospital like we can? Well, yes, yes, and yes, but there's other questions that need to be answered. And the reason really is that there is no specific program design into our communities. Canada and the province focus towards First Nations, which great, help them, they need help. I commend that. But they do not focus on the Métis community because of this issue, who's responsible for the Métis? Who is the jurisdictional responsibility lie with? Is it Canada or is it the province? And so they've been blaming each other back and forth. And I said, I could be in the middle of the bush somewhere, you'll find me to pay taxes. When it comes to services, you're not there to provide services to give you back my money that you've taken from me. But, so we did the study, it took us 4 years. We did about 73,000 of our citizens' PIN numbers. And those are accurate. There's no irrefutable data. It showed we are dying earlier than anybody else in this province. It showed we had a higher diabetes than anybody, including First Nations in Manitoba. We had other chronic illnesses like arthritis and others, that we were above everybody else in this province. And the reason was because two governments were blaming each other who was to provide services for me. and which is absolutely ridiculous. And, for example, there could be this crazy thing about it. There could be a reserve 4 miles to me. I'm not allowed to use that service, and they could have a diabetes program. They can have nurses there. I can't use it. I got to drive, my citizens got to drive 90 miles or 100 miles to go get that service from the regular tax dollars that are being expended. So there's different ways I think that could be achieved very quickly. But you start looking at that, I said to myself, let's take this evidence and use it for something else. So we said, let's build pharmacies. There's business in that particular aspect of it. So we built our first pharmacy. We opened it about 5 months ago. We're doing very well. We're opening second and third around the corner. We just signed them, and we're going to open our fourth very soon with a very good friend of mine sitting in this room. I won't say his name because I didn't know if he gave me permission to say my plan. And there'll be a fifth coming with another friend in this room. I'm opening about 5, 6, or 7 pharmacies, and I'm willing to take on anybody. In fact, I'm challenging the essence of Shoppers. Shoppers is the biggest business concept when it comes to points and using their system of drawing in the consumer. And we're doing the same. We give points, and we're going to give competitive pricing equal to Shoppers or Farm Plus anywhere in Manitoba or Canada. So we're not only expanding here, we want to expand into Western Canada. So we're going to move quite rapidly. So I'm very, very pleased. I've got First Nations as 2 reserves, big reserves as my partners. Northwest was in those bands, and I've moved Northwest out, and I've come in. And so, and it can be done by just some ingenuity and some looking at some actual facts and numbers. And I'm telling you, the money to be made there is something that draws my immediate attention, I assure you that. So we've gone from there, and we've done other things. Harvesters, we took over the harvester agreement in Manitoba, and conservation is fundamental to us. So I just want to tell in case there's any hunters in here that say, well, why did they get a special right and we don't? Well, this is an old relationship we've had with Canada, and that's where that particular process is. But let me go further, because I only have about 20 minutes, and I don't think any speakers should speak more than 20 minutes, or you'll fall asleep on us. So we have about 23 million in our ECDEV funds also. We have different capital corporations and different institutions that lend out money to our citizens. And that's going to be changing dramatically in the next little while. And we're meeting with the Prime Minister on the 29th of April. We were supposed to meet on the 17th, but he canceled to go to Thatcher's funeral. And so we're now scheduled for the 29th, and that's going to be on our agenda. And there's a commitment, I understand, coming from the Prime Minister. But when you look at the real issue of where things are, Calgary Chamber of Commerce, for example, did a study on the Métis. They spent some good dollars, and the end result was this was probably one of the best and wisest investments, is what their projection was. If you look at the Métis people, there's about 400,000 of us in Western Canada. We're the fastest young population growing in Western Canada. And not only that, we're entrepreneurs, we're workers, we're in the educational institutions, and we're definitely could pay an impact with the shortfall we find in industry and companies that are looking for people. What's missing is a small gap, a tiny gap. And we also did our own study. In fact, if it was a small investment to post-secondary education directly for Métis people, they'd see the GDP rise by about 20-something billion by 2026. So just by small investment into the Métis community, because let me tell you, you see the Aboriginal wording in the media or an announcement coming out, so much for education, that not a penny that comes to us. So let's understand that. That's what gets me so upset. But the Manitobas read it in the morning, they think we're getting money for our kids to go to school. We don't. We make our own. And in fact, we got now 14 million with universities in Manitoba. Every year, I put $500,000. Universities match me dollar for dollar, $500,000. We start off with 0. We're at 14 million and growing. And every year, my plan is to continue putting $1 million. In fact, Lloyd has enhanced that faster. He wants more money, so I'll see about that. But anyways, he wants more. We need to put more money in his university, which we're going down that path. So we're giving away $700,000 to our kids every year now to help them post-secondary. But that's not enough, given the amount of citizens we have in Manitoba. So we need to go forward. So we don't get no other program. So let me make that very clear for people to understand that. If we didn't create that endowment fund, we'd have no endowment funds for the Métis people. So it's really a challenge. So a lot is happening. We're also in the business, before I go to land claims, we're in a business sector. And I think no disrespect to my province, I think we're missing out on opportunities, great opportunities, and we need to expand a little faster and a little bit more. If you look at potash, you look at turn the front page of yesterday's paper, I think, or today's, you see their surplus is 68 billion, I believe, or 68 million. I'm not sure the exact number. That's yeah, 68 million, or 168. But if you look at that, and you say to yourself, why aren't we investing in that? I've been at it for 2 years now. trying to push the province to support me in opening a potash mine in Manitoba. I've got friends, and very, very rich and influential friends I've gained throughout my political career, and they definitely have backers willing to come in and look into this province about opening a potash mine. But I'm having a challenge trying to get that relationship to go to the next level. And it's been something that's puzzling to me. Because you look at what's happening in potash, and we have a good strip of it by the Saskatchewan border. You know, PHB and Potash Corp, Acrium, those companies have been holding stake for several decades probably now. And they've been holding stake in that area, and they're saying, well, one day we're going to come potentially invest in it. They're never going to come invest in there. They've got enough potash in Saskatchewan. They just hold stakes so nobody else can ever open up a mine in Manitoba. So for the Brad Walls, if he wants to get mad at us, too bad for him. I think we need to look at developing those mines and taking the opportunities that do exist there. So we look at that, and I say to myself, like freshwater fisheries, it has $62 million, it's almost bankrupt. I'm trying to buy it right now. I've been after now about 9 months of a business plan. I've sent my own team to India for investments, and definitely we got them. They're willing to come in. We have $40 to $50 million capital investments willing to come in once I buy fresh water. My plan is I don't need a penny from government. I'm telling government I don't need your money, just give me the company. The company owes you $29 million. They're in deficit of $29 million. In fact, you can take that $29 million, put it as a stake shares into the company. I can guarantee you I'll make that money in this company. I take it from $62 million to $150 million, and I got a business plan to show you that. So I'm getting good support right now from several members of Parliament to go down that path to sell me fresh water, and I'm getting closer, I hope, to fulfilling that. Hydro is another example. I think there's great opportunity in hydro. I think we need to put a little bit more squeeze in hydro and where it's going, and I definitely be one that'll be squeezing. I'm not sure you that. They know that. And I think that we have some unfinished business to do. The Minister and I and the President have had some discussions, and I think we're going to be talking quite vigorously in the next little while. We're going to be finding ourselves sitting in a courtroom looking at each other, and I hope that's not where we go. So there is some development there. But what I think we need to do in Manitoba, and so you want to know, this is how the Manitoba Métis Cabinet speaks. So you don't think we just talk about social programs. We talk about big business inside our cabinet. And one of the things, when I look at the development, I don't think we need to be more stronger in our procurement systems in our province of Manitoba. We're weak, and we're failing our Manitobans, we're failing our taxpayers, because what we're doing is we're allowing foreign investment or foreign companies to come in here with not their skilled human resource labor. Well, what happens when that paycheck's given to that worker? It doesn't go to your stores, it doesn't go to your businesses, it goes back to the wife at home, or to the husband if he's at home. It goes back to their paycheck at home in their bank account in a different province. And the money's not spent in your business, it's spent somewhere else. We need to start saying we got a hell of a lot of HR in our province, human resource citizens, that we can actually fill these gaps. We just got to focus on that. So these are the kind of things that we're speaking of at our cabinet and pushing hard with the government. And so we're not talking in small general terms. I even phoned the mayor, and I told the mayor, look, we're going to have an aqueduct problem in the near future. I said, what if I was to find investors to build an aqueduct? Wouldn't cost you nothing. You'd own an aqueduct, but we'd make a different business relationship. That's $600 million. And I'm talking with people that are willing to put $1 billion or more into this province. And so don't think the Métis are just a little tiny organization. We're a very promising big government that's moving fast and moving fast forward. Now let's talk about the land claims quickly before Dave comes and pulls me off the stage here. But if you look at land claims, you know, it's 32 years in the making. For me, it's 17 years. And it cost us probably $10 million, our own money. Let's make it very clear, our own money. I had to raise that money on my own, and it was hard, very, very hard. At times, I thought I couldn't do it. I bless my cabinet for their leadership and their support and their wisdom and how we move forward, but on our business acronym of how we think. And we started planning how we're going to move ahead. And I will tell you how one of the great saviors, it's done now, they can't do nothing anyway. It's great saviors that saved our land claims. Because Canada had a strategy. Canada's strategy was to bankrupt us. They kept on taking us to court on different issues. Because remember, we went to the Supreme Court of Canada once already. And we won to take the case forward. They said, no, we did not have the right. The Federation did not have the right. And this case was too old, it should be dead. Supreme Court came out in 15 minutes, all 9 of them unanimous saying, no, this case has a right to go back to court. So, but it took us how much millions to go to Supreme Court of Canada to fight that argument. Then later they fought us on different red herrings, which I'll use the word red herrings, in the courtrooms. So we didn't even fight on the trial actually going to trial to fight on the case. We fought on all these other specific issues. And I'm not somebody that doesn't understand business. I understand business very well. And I know what they were trying to do to me. They were trying to take me down a path where eventually I'm going to run out of money. And I tell you, they sent auditors like you wouldn't believe in to check our books, to try to find flaws somewhere and to see if I was taking money from some specific program to pay for my lawyers. But what they miscalculated, the Métis people, is we're business thinkers. And we think that way. We think ahead. When I do something, I think 10 years ahead. When I'm doing something, I'm way ahead in my plan where I'm going. So when I was doing land claims, you look at the CP building that we own now. Well, what we did there is that I know I needed space, but I also need an asset. And so I knew that, and I did my homework. CP was dumping the building. That I knew for sure. That building was gone. And so what I said to myself, we need to capture that building. And there was only one interested party who had a partnership with the province. I won't mention that issue. But there was an issue there. There was a relationship growing where they're going to put and sign a contract for a lease with putting provincial employees in there. And so I came into the picture late in the game, and I said, look, I'm interested. I'm coming in to bid. So, but I want the same deal this guy's getting. I understand. I heard this deal is happening in the back room. I want that same deal. Well, as soon as I threw my name in there, all of a sudden there was problems with the building. The air quality was not great, or this was. But what they didn't realize, I didn't give a care. I didn't want them to come to my building. I just wanted the building. So I started negotiating. Once I pushed everybody out, I was the last player in the room. And the building was at $5 million. Someone was at 3.3. And we had him at 2.2. My executive director is here, and he told me, take it. You know, and I said, no, you go back in that room, because I know he's vicious, eh? You go back in that room, and you push him hard. Push him right, this building's got to go. So we went back in a room, we negotiated, we got the building for $1.4 million, but then I made him sign a lease with me, CP, for $1.5 million. So I ended up getting the building for $100,000 profit. So you take a $5 million building like that, and you start moving, but what you did with that, the plan all along for me was this. In 5 years, that building is paid. And in 5 years, I got an asset I could borrow against to pay my land claims. And that's exactly what I did. So we were planning itself where we were going. So government had a plan to bankrupt me, to break me, so I wouldn't go all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, but I ended up beating him. And Canada themselves openly said, this is what this case is worth. They said it, and they can't deny it. It's their own words. They said, this is going to affect every Canadian in this country, and this case is worth billions of dollars. Well, that's their words. Clearly, I think the value is there. We all know what land is worth and what land loss value happened. And I use an example. I want people to capture this for a second in your mind. Imagine you were the Métis people, we're all just back in 1870, we're all talking, this is going to be our land, and we're all sitting in a room, and Riel speaking to you and telling you about the great opportunity that's going to exist for you. You got chased off your land. You got nothing, really. Your houses are burnt, and the terror and tyranny that existed was horrible. So Métis went into hiding for over 50 years. But what truly happened is that what is the measurable you can look at? What did you really lose, people can say to you today? You didn't really lose much. You guys rebuilt. You guys are okay. You know, you guys are, no, you know, you're making ends meet. You're providing for your family. You should just be satisfied with that. Everybody else is struggling in this province. Everybody is struggling in this country. Well, maybe that's true. But at the end of the day, I said to them this, understand this for a second. Let's look at the Mennonite community of Manitoba. And I say this openly because this is true. Mennonite people got 500,000 acres of land. We got 1.4. We never got to rejoice or even build under 1.4. But the 500,000 acres of land that the Mennonite were allowed, they were allowed to live, prosper, collectively, and build. And I applaud them openly I applaud them, because they're hardworking, very dedicated, and very visionary. Same thing as us. But they were allowed to develop. Now, ask yourself, who is the richest people in this province at times? And let's look at some people's bank accounts. It's the Mennonite people. And I'm very proud of them. They should be, because they developed themselves and they supported themselves and stood beside themselves. And I applaud them openly anywhere. And ask for a second, imagine the Métis people now, if we had that same opportunity. If we were allowed to prosper and develop just like they did, we would not be the working poor or the lower middle class. We'd actually be probably the most wealthy, most influential people today in Manitoba. So it tells you of very clear things. Many generations of their future was robbed from them, those young kids that would have probably guaranteed they're going to university, guaranteed their parents were saying you're going to further education. So in land claims, it's a win for Manitoba, I assure you that. Our plan clearly is this. I think when we negotiate, and I've already echoed loud and clear my message to the Prime Minister, and I'll again message it on the 29th, is that we're looking towards an investment. We're looking towards putting our money in trust. I want to see it come where no Métis youth would ever have a challenge. When they see grade 12, it's a guarantee they're going to be going to university, because there's going to be a fund set aside directly to protect their future and pay for their education. And when we want to buy a house, we're going to have a down payment prepared already in our economic plan. When our elders don't have enough to pay for the optical glasses, we're going to have optical glasses for our elders. We don't need the province. But they still will be taking my taxes, so don't forget that. On one hand, I'm telling the government this: just because we negotiate a trust account and a trust fund in the future, don't just say that everything comes out of that bank account too. If that's the case, then quit taking my taxes. Because on the other hand, I'm willing to pay taxes over and over and again, by hundreds of millions by my people, but damn well so, I'm entitled as any other Canadian to the benefits of you managing my taxes. So that'll be very clear to Canada. So we have a direct track. I did say a message before to the Chamber, and I commend the Calgary Chamber and I commend David them to hopefully work with us in the future. But I do believe there's an opportunity here for all business. I believe there's an opportunity. I think a lot of us are thinking the same way. The Métis thinking the same way as you. How do you build your business? How do you grow your business? How do you make Manitoba business stronger? Well, that's what we want to do. And if there's ways that we can partner with you, my door is open. And we can prove to you over and over our successful business plans and how fast they're going to grow and expand. There's not a doubt about it. And I always tell our people, there's 120,000 of us probably in Manitoba. And if there's a man walking down the street and he's a millionaire and he has $1 in his pocket, and there's a man on welfare walking on the other side and he's got $1 in his pocket, never forget that dollar is the same damn value. It's still a buck. A buck is a buck. Just because he's a millionaire, he's got $1, you got $1. That store you spend your money is going to get the same value of that dollar versus that millionaire spending that $1. So always remember, you've got a value. And that's what our people need to understand. And so what we've been pushing our people is collective buying. So if you want to do business with us, Domino's Pizza has joined us. Visions has joined us. I'm taking my 100,000 people and now moving them to start buying in one business, in one industry, because they have a value. And people need to understand this about Aboriginal people, First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. Our money is 100% disposable. We're not really putting it in long-term investments or putting it in some foreign investment somewhere or else buying these elaborate cottages somewhere. Our money is going directly into your business. 100% of it's being spent. So we're your best customer. So you start looking at the value that we're carrying. We're carrying hundreds of $millions in our wealth, from welfare to people, and there's not many on welfare, I'll tell you that, but there's going to be more if the government doesn't do something about it. But soon there's the middle and the working poor. All of them have disposable income. And I'll close off with this comment to show you the mindset of my people. We have the largest assembly in Canada. 3,000 show up at my annual assembly in Brandon. What I don't know, and maybe one day the business community can help me in Manitoba, is that Brandon rolls out the red carpet for me, because they know the value I'm bringing. I'm spending about half a $500,000 at a weekend there, because I know the numbers. I see the numbers. So Winnipeg, I seen Winnipeg, and I told this to the mayor and the previous mayor. I told him, I don't understand something. When we're rolling in our business to come in to have a convention, there's no red carpet. There's no enticing us to come to do business with you. But if I'll use Shriners, for example. If Shriners is going to come, and they're bringing 1,000 people. Wow, you guys are looking at different ways to invite them into your community, roll out the red carpet. They're bringing 1,000, I'm bringing 3,000. And I got money in my pocket to spend too. But why is that different? Is it just because we're Aboriginal? That, I'm not talking about discrimination, but is that the mindset? Is there something in the back of the wheels that's not spinning? $1 is $1. So in my view, I think it's very clear. We have an opportunity to bring business to you. We have an opportunity to plan with you. We also have the resources to invest with you. So the Métis Federation is going to be a major player in Manitoba. There's not a question about it. And the key for me, forget this, when this land claims come, without question I'm going to be a player. But even before that, already I'm a player now. So my door is open for business. You want to knock on our door, talk to Mito, talk to my economic departments. We'll come knock on your door and do business with you any day. Because I believe in supporting Manitoba. Manitoba should come first. And at the end of the day, this is the province I love and is born and bred in. And it's a province I'll do anything in my power to support. So again, thank you very much for having me here. And I thank you very much, Dave, again, for, I know I'm second on this round, but that's okay. But I do appreciate coming here and telling you a little bit about who the Manitoba Federation is. Our door is open for business. Thank you very much.